Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle, and this is my colleague Adam. We will talk about what we are doing over there in China, the other side of the world, about our financial industry, about the agility transformation over there. Here is our self-introduction. Actually, we started our consulting business like 9 years ago, and we devoted to financial industry's agility. So now we are the leading position there in Chinese market, and our clients include like the largest insurance company in China, Ping An Insurance, and CCB China Construction Bank, which is the second largest bank in the nation, and also China Merchant Bank, which is the leading retailing bank. We will talk about our case studies, which means that those are what we have experienced during the last 9 years. And some of that in Chinese characters because details cannot be exposed, so I just leave it there as Chinese character. And if you have any questions, and we are open to discuss it after the presentation. Yes. Thank you. Here is about what we talk about enterprise agility over there in China. We use the word VUCA. I guess maybe you all know about it a little bit, which means uncertainty, ambiguity, complexity, and volatility. And over there on the left, on the right, it's the pain, desire, and the barriers people they feel when they want to talk with us about how can they achieve agility. And here is, because this is just based on our own experience. So when we talk with our customers, one thing we will emphasize is that fit for purpose is the word used here, and we will use something like customer satisfaction to increase your speed of delivery for IT department, and also to make your business successful for a business section, and also to reduce management risk and cost. So here, at the very beginning, when people they come to talk with us, they mainly feel fear. I mean, that is, they don't come to just to have a talk casually with us. The thing is like now they feel that their enterprise life cycle is becoming shorter and shorter. And here I use some figures like from 60 years to 15 years during the past 50 years. So, and in China, it's the same because now the market is becoming from incremental market to stock market, which means the increase has stopped a little bit. And also, in the past, we used the way of copy to China solution, which means we just borrow what happened here, and then we copy it there, and that works. But now it's become more and more difficult. Another thing is about technology, so that means some disruptive business model appears. And also knowledge worker is different from those labor workers. And also now we can feel that some old way of management cannot work anymore in the company. So in China, now we have some big consulting companies like McKinsey and BCG and PwC, they're talking about enterprise agility. Actually, they are setting this concept to the executives. So they say like, this is the task of CEO to make the scale enterprise agility, and also now it's the time for the elephants, which means banks and insurance companies to start to dance, actually how to learn to dance. And those papers and websites issued over there in China. And here are some banking executives talking about being agile. And I use, this one is from Ping An Bank, which is the retailing VP over there. And he actually talking about how to enhance agility. And all these three companies, they are our customers, so we are quite familiar with them. So they talk about agile organization, and they talk about agile bank.
I want to add a little bit. What I feel different here is that I talked with some of the colleagues here that what's the difference between the banks in China and here in US or in Europe. We got a feeling that actually the banks in China is very anxious, afraid the change of the environment. We feel that the big reason is that the regulation in China, the banking industry is relatively not that strong as like here in US or in Europe. So all the banks are facing a lot of competition from internet companies. As you may know that the major payment method in China now is not credit card anymore. It's we call WePay, which is actually a kind of payment function in China. Facebook is WeChat, and it's kind of Facebook-like. And most people using them to do the daily transaction payment and not using credit card anymore. So all the banks fear that if they are not changing, they will kind of run out of business. So that's why that we feel that all the bank executives like chairman and not the IT people talking about agile anymore. It's really the CEOs, the chairmen. They begin to talk about agile banks, agile organizations. So they want the whole organization to be agile instead of only the IT piece. So that's kind of because Michelle and I has attending the Kanban event for like 5 years now, and also we try to be in US in April, and then Europe, France or Spain or Germany in like October to get a feeling, a sense of what's the trend here. But the biggest difference we feel that is that in China, the banking industry, they are very, very nervous now, and they really very determined to be agile. So we kind of feel that maybe this is like what will happen here next, maybe 3 years, 5 years, we guess, because as Michelle showed that in China, we kind of noticed that all the big firms, big consulting firms like McKinsey, they're talking about agile all over now. So that's kind of a little bit background on what's going on in China market.
Yes, here we use the word COOD organization, which is about 4 elements when we explain to those executives what's going on, because they are actually people in their 50s around, and it's a little bit difficult for them to really understand what you are talking about. So we use COOD, 组织 in Chinese, which means cool organization. So for them, just too easy to remember the word. And that is actually capitals for a knowledge worker, and for uncertain circumstances, and for complex system, which means the banking actually is really complex system, and decision making, because we feel that the decision making is a really key procedure in those banks, which means that you have to make constant speedy and correct decisions with high quality, and that is the key to be successful.
Let me add a little bit here is that we talk about VUCA a lot, but basically when you talk about VUCA, and there are certain things you like uncertainty, but there are certain things you think you don't know what you mean by ambiguity in a way. So we kind of try to phrase a new term here. We think it's better term than VUCA in a way, because like David said, we are mainly knowledge workers working together, and then uncertainty, we like that term a lot, and really the complex system in this Kanban framework. And the last one is the decision making. We find that in the banks, the biggest time spent is actually not the doing things, but really the decision process. People talk, this way, that way, and that's where we lost all the flow efficiencies. So that's why we kind of add decision here. And like Michelle said, it's like we find it's good because it's good, and in English that's a good word in a way, right? And in Chinese actually means cool. So we kind of forged this term, and we kind of feel that it's better than VUCA, and we kind of actually using area character here to mean something instead of actually for VUCA we mostly use uncertainty and complex in the term.
Yes. And also when we talk with those executives, which who most come from some kind of business management school, and so we use some academic stuff to help them to understand the concept. This one is about dynamic capability theory, which they can understand easily. That means they can regard organizational capacity as capacity level 0 and dynamic capacity as capacity level 1. Because when we talk about agility, we try to make them understand that they try to build the capacity to face the unpredictable changes and under uncertain circumstances, and to improve the efficiency in exploring new opportunities. So that is more like the agile thinking. And for lean thinking, because in China we have really strong manufacturing stuff over there. So people, they are familiar with lean thinking. And we try to make people understand the difference between lean thinking and agile thinking in some way. Maybe it's not that correct, but just our way of talking with our clients so that they can understand it a little bit easier. And here also, this is a little bit big picture. I will not talk about too much about that, because when we talk with them, we try to explain how physics now describe the world, and how philosophy describe the world, like free will, and how agile describe the world, because that is mainly we put that in the management field.
Yeah, the reason why we come up with this is really that we feel that to be agile, the biggest challenge is not really on the the middle level or low level. It's really about changing the mindset for the management team. So because they have already their way of thinking, they have been successful for 30 years and they know what's going on. And then you come up with some new terminology and they kind of maybe let you play for a while, something like, okay, go and have a fun. But they don't really want to change. So we are trying to find a way to let them understand that the whole management theory, most of the managers, their thought is based upon is really, we call them certainty thinking. It's based on Newton physics. It's based on some certainty philosophy. And nowadays, we really should think about like quantum physics and free will, those kind of stuff. So kind of at least put the question mark on the management head. Like, okay, this guy may tell something interesting. Instead of, he would kind of very strongly hold his thinking and his ideas. So that's kind of our way of trying to get into the management, because we feel that for the enterprise agility, the most important thing is really to get the higher level management support, and at least put the question mark on their head and begin to think about, okay, maybe they got something and let them try it, something like that.
So here we also draw map, something like that, to describe what happened with certain management style and uncertain management style. What we want to speak here is that it's not like being agile is just the absolutely right thing. Sometimes you need to fix it, like mix it up together. For some process, and you can just imagine it in the old style, just become more and more efficient. But for some uncertainties, then you need to think of a new way of managing your team, managing your work. So this is the picture when we put it over there, and people, they feel that they can understand something from there. So we call it two-core management system.
Yeah, and also we kind of put it in the ACE, like Agile Creative Ecosystem Management Framework. It's also try to make them think about that the problem is not really lies in the people or even the system, but the way of management thinking. So we try to create some like a two-core, or at least open some gate to let them think about there's different way of management. So a little bit detail on that is that on the objective side, as everybody now is more and more popular on OKRs. At least from KPI, at least you should think about OKR. That's something you should try or at least learn. And also we talk about the strategy. What kind of strategy way of thinking you should use, and organization structure, the culture, and how do you to plan, how do you do acting, those kind of stuff. So basically, we tell them what do you do before. It may still work in some situation, but we are try to tell them that there's other situations you should learn new stuff. So kind of create a two-core management system for them to understand, so that they can, at least try to learn with more open heart instead of just, kind of doing something and without believing.
Okay, so here we divide our practice into 4 categories, which include actually 25 fields. Those practices we did in our experience, which is about IT delivery and business innovation, organizational governance, and culture. We have done a lot of stuff for IT delivery and business innovation during the last 9 years. And last year and this year, we are focusing on organizational governance. And culture is really a big word that we feel like 5 to 10 years for a company to achieve something like agile culture. So we just let it be there. It will be changed slowly.
Yeah, for Chinese, we like exams, so a lot. So as long as you give them something that can have a mark, and they like that. So it's kind of like agile assessment framework. So basically, we go in and tell you, okay, you are maturity level 1, level 2, like KMM, something like that. But basically, people love, maturity model in China. So they just love to be graded. So we create something it's multidimensional. So you got like 25 axes for different maturity, so that you can have 3 on this and have 1 on that. Doesn't mean anything. So we try to give them a way of reflecting their maturity, but don't compare with each other, because this is not only 100 to 0, right? So you have different multiple combinations. So you kind of compare with your last year, and I'm getting better in this area, and I'm staging on that area. So that kind of ways we are doing kind of assessment for enterprise maturity model.
Yeah, and from this side, we also want to emphasize that when we talk with customers, we will just tell them that there is no silver bullet for doing agile. It's not like something you can learn just really like in 5 minutes. So you need to take constant efforts, and the key is to do the iteration and optimization all the time. And you can start as a whole, or you can just start from a really small slice. There is no strict rules, like there is no wonderful solution for you to choose what you should do. It's just like what your objectives is, and then what is the best way for you. Here is some details, but for IT agility, we emphasize some concepts, but because the stuff here is a little bit too much, so I will not talk about that in details. We will talk about some example later on.
Yeah, just add one thing is that I don't know whether guys talk about DevOps here, but basically that's another agile movement. They just think about like agile is in a way that has been 20 years here, and it's not new anymore. So they come up with new terms and try to be agile in a way. So basically, if you go to any DevOps conference, you will feel that is from the business to the development to the deployment. So it's everything. So it's also the same package in a way as agile, but just try to rebranding everything. But we feel that, at least in China, that the IT guys love that, because they kind of be agile or Scrum for like 10 years and nothing happens. And so, this time another silver bullet comes. I like DevOps. But we feel that, but for the business side, DevOps, doesn't fly in a way, because they choose the wrong term for a movement. You cannot think about CEO and tell their people, we want to be a DevOps company. So that doesn't happen. So, but that just 2 cents about DevOps.
Okay, and here is about business agility. What we do is about lean innovation Actually, that is some concept we borrow from lean startup, because that if you do it in a company, you cannot say lean startup. It's better just to say lean innovation so that they can understand. And then we do something like design thinking, like business canvas, MVP just to their business section to enhance the chance of success. And also we teach something about online operation ability to increase customer satisfaction and lower the cost through the internet. Those are some main practice we do for their business side.
Yeah, one thing we find out that, although, we are still working with IT a lot, but we kind of feel that IT is not really the pain point of the company. Most of the time we are building the wrong thing, or we're building something that no one uses. So no matter how efficient you are, you're kind of wasting most of the energy anyway. So in that sense, we feel that the agility in other part of the organization, the product team, the operation team, kind of gives more value as a whole, if we think about optimize in the whole company.
Yes, and we introduced for the governance side, we introduced the Spotify model. Because there is safe and there's less, there's other, also like agile scaling framework. But those are from IT side, that is one thing. Another thing is we think that is a little bit too strict for an enterprise when you say that you need to achieve agility. So we like this company a lot, Spotify, and then we borrowed their model. And this is about their squad, tribe, chapter, and guild. But the thing is we don't change the organization into this structure immediately. We actually build up a virtual operational structure according to Spotify model, be above their entity organizational structure, because that is much easier for them to do. And another thing is for banks, you cannot just change the organization so in such an easy way. So we use this the structure on the left to do those operational structure, and then we use OKR, which is objective and key results system, as a supplement to KPI, to current KPI system, so that to enhance the communication inside the company. And we use Kanban during the process for monitoring and for some risk control. And also we use some other practice as like Agile PMO, which is Project Management Office System, so that they can do it from different angles.
Yeah, I'm just happy to heard about the ING story, because we heard a lot about ING story in China. At least you guys also use Spotify, so that's good. But the reason we kind of choose Spotify is that although Agile start from IT, but when we use that in other part of the company, we want to choose the least IT flavor framework. The Scrum, the Safe was all over IT in a way, so you kind of had to customize too much to use them in the non-IT environment. So we kind of choose Spotify, and both us and McKinsey actually do a lot of implementation, some implementation in China as well, to do the agile transformation, and they also use Spotify model. I think that's for the reason because that's probably the most lightweighted agile framework that you can use. So a little bit background on that. So we're kind of a big fan of Spotify model for now.
Yes, here is about culture, and one thing we mentioned before is about how to change the mindset of the executive teams. So we introduced like 2 core management system, and another thing is about to build up an internal engine for agility. Because we are people from outside, we cannot be there all the time, and we are a little bit expensive. So the company, they would be happy if we just help them to build the internal engine, which means we give them the toolboxes. We help them to get more internal coaches trained, and sometimes we even build up something like the Agile Center inside the company to ensure that when we were away, and they can also do it. So, and another thing is we think it's because we did it on team level, on unit level, department level, and also on enterprise level. And we think the best way is to base on team level to enhance agility, because that means that you have like 10 people's team, and then it's easier for them to work together to help each other, and just because if it's too big, like we have something like 50 people agile team in the past, but that doesn't work that well because the big is just too big. People, they are scared to speak out. So we would like to focus on the team of like 10 people, and then just to use it as the basic unit to enhance their agility capacity.
Yeah, we do a lot. Actually, we nowadays we feel that because a lot of organizations, especially in the banks, that they organize in more like the function silos. So that's kind of how they're organized. And we use the Spotify model to build the tribes and to build the squad, as Michelle said, as a virtual team, so that actually we build a flow that flow across the function silos. But we still keep, most of the time we still keep the organization structure same. We don't change the real power structure, but build more like the flow across the silos. We use virtual teams, but we ask the virtual teams to sit together and to kind of have dinner all the time and try to work together as a team, although they report to different managers. So that's kind of the practice we use now. And the other thing is that we feel that actually most of the time we nowadays start agile transformation with the reorg now. Because we feel that if we don't break the function silos, and just the change happens too slowly. So nowadays, most of the time, we start from a tribe level and just to redesign and re-implement org structure, like a tribe structure and a chapter structure, and kind of give them new process to start a transformation at 100 or 200 people scale. So that's kind of becoming a comfort zone. But the biggest challenge we find is really, especially in the banks, at least in China, everybody is trying to do the digital transformation, try to be internet companies, try to be fintech companies. So we find the biggest gap is not actually the management, but actually the hard skills like product management, like marketing, data scientists. So basically, you lack of maybe 10 roles instead of you only have some business people and some IT guys. So basically you have 2 roles ready, but you kind of have 10 roles, not capable enough. So we end up with running a lot of training programs for the customers, so that to boost the capability level for the whole enterprise.
Yes, and when we go to a company who wants to be agile, and we mentioned that before, we will do the appraisal, and then we will see their current situation, and then we think about the objectives of this company, and then we will just draw something like the roadmap, and we can choose from different ways, something like, we call it like double speed, multiple speed. It doesn't matter that much, but the thing is just like we need to understand what they are doing now and what their objective is, and then so that we can help them to achieve that. So here we categorize like three modes of doing agile. One thing is we call it like experimental transformation. That means for this company there is no clear goal, there is no focus. Actually, it's like a narration style. We say it's like you do a SPAR in the results. Means that I hear that agile is a good thing, and we want to have a try. We have plenty of money, and we are really leading position in the market, so we just want to give it a try. And another way of doing it is demanding transformation. It means that is problem driven. We have a clear objective what we want to do with this agility transformation, what kind of problems we want to solve. And so we call it like conventional treatment mode. And another thing, which we think is with the highest risk is overall transformation. And there are a few banks over there that are doing it. And that means they want to become organizational, to achieve organizational agility at once. We call it shock therapy. They change the entity of the company actually, and not just the headquarters, also their branches altogether. It's like the revolution in a really shocking way. So, but the good thing is they can see the achievement really quickly, but there is also high risks behind.
Yeah. Just a little bit more detail on this is that the CMB, which is the second largest bank in China, they're kind of state-owned and they have a lot of money. So they kind of just want to some agile decoration on their branding in a way. So they kind of, I don't know whether you guys heard about Gartner dual model here or dual model IT or something like that. Basically, that's you have an agile part of your compensation, and you have either a waterfall part or a slow part of your company. So Gartner kind of give that model, and we see that a lot of the bigger banks in China was adopting that model and try a slice of agile in some department which is not mission critical. So that kind of what we see that on the one side of the most conservative side of the banks was using that way to adopting agile, but nowadays, at least in China, it's kind of political correct to be agile. Everybody has to take some bite on agile, or you are kind of out of date or going to die. Right? So you have to do something. And the CMB is another story. They are the kind of biggest retail bank in China. They have been doing retail bank for like 10 years ahead of everybody. So they already built a very deep trench on the retail banking industry. So they kind of try to, just move very carefully because they are already very successful. So that kind of two customers we have that they're kind of using this more like a casual way of doing agile. And we see the Ping An Bank, which is Ping An was the biggest insurance company, but they are relatively small banks, but they got a lot of reference that they can use to work together between the insurance company and the bank company. So they are very aggressive, and they try to take over CMB actually. So they try to be the biggest retail bank. So they kind of adopt more like, we feel that it's more like a more pragmatic way of adopting agile. And they are doing business agile and IT agile at the same time. So they are not only doing the IT agile. So for them, we kind of like them most in a way that we feel that it's more, you can change whatever you want to change, but then they don't change other things, don't need to be changed. But the other way, we feel that the most brief agile adopters is some of the smaller banks. They kind of like this idea and try to more like the silver bullet and try to change everything. So they kind of this more banks that work change in the CEO level or the chairman level. So they change everything in their bank. And they one thing we don't really like is that they kind of also put the IT people and the business people together into one tribe, which is we are still observing because they're good part of it and bad that part on that experiment, because they kind of two different people doing two different things, and you put them into one squad. There's good things and bad things may happen. So we're still kind of observing that, but they're kind of certainly the biggest, the bravest move on be agile. So we kind of see different ways, and so we give you this reference because our customer likes that because they kind of want to choose. Okay, there is different people, and I want to take which position to adopt agile, because each way they have own reasons to doing that.
Yes, so 3 strategies, 3 paths, and 3 speeds. We use that to explain to our customers, and as Adam just said, they can choose on their own. And so here is an example about a traditional bank. Their agility journey is a little bit specific. I'm not sure whether it's like the bank here, because in China, the bank over there is really multiple layers. And you can see on the right side, that means like 7 layers from CEO until the product manager. And so that's why we say the decision-making procedure is really long, and then their function is strictly divided from each other. And you can see the market department, risk control, and IT delivery, so on and so forth. And so one thing is we do the appraisal, as we just said, and analyze based on their objectives. This one, they want to increase their credit cards business, and they want to actually acquire 10 million more new customers over last year. And then, so we focus on that objective, and then we actually digging into problems and analyze the causes behind. On the left side is some problems on the appearance, and on the right side is the causes related, and also which category can we divide them to. And then after that, we actually set up more concrete goals, and then we do the icebreaking and kick off our experimental system. So I will skip a little bit.
How much time?
Yeah. And then we covering their end-to-end collaboration process, because when let's say, for the banking system, their decision-making procedure actually is the time-consuming procedure. And so we actually combing their process from the beginning to the end, so that we can understand where the bottlenecks are, where the time-consuming can happen. And after it, we think about how to design their virtual operational structure. On the left side is the original ones, and then we introduce some structure like Google's, like Toyota for them as references. But finally, we came up with this one. This is the virtual operational structure for their business side. Here are some scored, and there are some resources they share, because they don't have enough people for different roles. So the thing is, sometimes you cannot put that role inside the team. You just need to borrow it when you need it. And then we design their IT delivery department accordingly, just to make those two, they can cooperate better. And then because when you do this kind of stuff, people, they cannot get used to it like over one night. So the thing is, we actually establish a virtual professional committee during the process. So this community can help them to do some decision makings, and just to make it smooth to move from their really high layers of management to a flat one. And we use some Kanban staff meetings, service review meeting, this kind of stuff, just to ensure their daily work. And also, one thing is to solve specific problems appeared according to their damage influence during this whole procedure. We did it like within half a year. So actually, we solved some really concrete stuffs over there. And also, after a while, we figured out the authorization mechanism, because we have got that operational system work for a while, and some stuff can be more certain. So we make this organizational mechanism to enhance this kind of decision making and to improve their agility afterward. So here is some results after 6 to 12 months. Their throughput enlarged by 300%, lead time shortened by 60%, and defect decreased by 90%. Those are from IT side. And also for business side, their credit card volume increased by 80%. So that means they are happy with the ending, and then we move it from their credit card department to car financial department, and to other departments inside this bank.
Yeah, one thing I add is that we kind of spent a whole year with them, about 6 years with the IT team, to basically to reorganize like 500 people into 8 tribes and to master up all the processes. And after that, we began to work with the marketing department, which is this is more like the credit card subunit of the bank. So after that, we kind of work with the marketing team, and we finally achieved like we can issue a new card within 8 weeks. Everything countered. So basically, it's more like the development a new card as a product within 8 weeks.
Yes, so here is some business outcome, and then we got some insights. It's like the leadership have to be really supportive during this whole process. Otherwise, it cannot be done so smoothly. And another thing is agility actually is not the final stop. So you need to set up the clear business goal and then ensure everyone can understand it. And another thing is we build up this cross-functional tribal mechanism, and we feel that that is quite suitable for most of the banks. And so now we are trying to introduce it to more and more our customers, just to help them to do it in an easier way. And we feel actually achieving enterprise agility is not like this stuff. It's like sales in vendors. That's so easy, so quickly, but actually is about you create a new ecosystem inside the enterprise. That is all. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
We have some time for questions, so please feel free to make any questions to Michelle and Adam if you like, please. Okay. Thank you.
Hi. I'd like to ask you guys, I saw you have the MVP drawing, right? And I'd like to ask you guys, what has your experience been with invalidating hypotheses?
There's several obstacles you have to fight to do the MVP in the banks. First, psychologically, at least in China, fail is not the thing that people can say, okay, I have tried. No. You have to be 100% sure you are doing the right thing. So we feel that, so you have to kind of brainwash them. That's why we spend a lot of time brainwashing the CEOs and let them understand that you have to set up aside some fund that can fail. So basically, you kind of ask them for money, saying that, okay, for this smart department, they can fail within $10 million, because all the banks, you probably have banks, but at least when we work with banks, before that we are talking about like K or million. When we work with banks, we happy to always use like a billion, something like that. So they're kind of rich guys. So, but at least you have to start from there. Make them set aside some money that they are okay to lose. So that's first thing. And the other thing is that we feel that we fight a lot with the finance department because finance team, they always ask like, how much you earn after you do this. But you kind of tell them it's experiment. Oh, I understand. Then how much you earn after this experiment. So we kind of also work with the finance team a lot to come up with a new model. You probably cannot succeed saying that, just let me do it. You need to come up with something simpler than what they have before, because before that it takes them probably months to build a model and to tell the finance people that this will work. And people spend all the energy just to build a model and then don't have the real energy to build the real thing, because everything was spent on the building the model. So we kind of find some between We feel that it's not really hard to let people doing the real work understand experiment is important. It's really the system around that basically kill all the opportunities for you to do the real experiment. So that's why we spend a lot of time brainwash the high levels. But the good thing is that, with your agile power is high enough, and then everybody is free to be told that the finance people is not agile. So everybody want to be part of agile, but don't know how to be agile. And you kind of tell them, okay, just now you have 20 input for this algorithm. Can you make me 5? But it still work for you, and he kind of worked that out, and that's kind of simplify the process. We cannot say that it's just one step to all the freedom, but at least do it better. So something, what do we do for the MVPs?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.